Hey everybody, welcome to Elder Geeks Elder Speak. Today's Saturday, June 15th, 2013. My name is Randy Yasenchak. I'm the editor of ElderGeek.com. Welcome to my first official Elder Speak post E3 2013. I am tired as hell, because I just kind of rolled in last night. My plane landed last night at like 10:30 my time. And then when I got off the plane, it took them about an hour to finally get the baggage, train dealy working. So it took them an hour just to get our bags off the plane because they broke two of the belts, or at least they couldn't figure out how to work the belts. I guess they had the B team on the luggage unload thing last night. So as soon as I got in last night, I quickly edited together a couple of videos for you guys to watch, and then I threw them up on the channel, and then I apparently went into a coma, and I didn't wake up until like 11 o'clock today, which is a lot later than I was hoping to. I was kind of hoping to keep getting videos to you guys. But today, I don't want to talk too much about my E3 kind of experience. Tonight I'm going to be recording my personal E3 experience as a whole with Steve and a special guest tonight on an episode of Game Club. But right now, I specifically want to talk about The Evil Within and my impressions of The Evil Within. First one, when I got to the Bethesda booth, the Bethesda booth was... They practically had it under armed guard. It was kind of nice, and hopefully I'll throw up some footage here as well, so you're not just watching me talk in my office. But the Bethesda booth was really well protected, and it wasn't a crowded booth, which was kind of awesome. It was a stark contrast to, say, something like the EA booth and the Nintendo booth and the PlayStation booth. The PlayStation booth was gigantic, and the Ubisoft booth was equally huge, but I mean it was just swarmed with people. And you probably watched that interview that I did with the Assassin's Creed 4 guy, and I mean it was so loud and so packed there that I was surprised that the audio was being picked up at all on my little recorder. And what was funny was when I was doing the interview, Ash was a total trooper. He was a really pleasant guy to talk to, and not only that, but he was also very aware, and he was very considerate. And what was funny was there was this dude who was because there's so many people, he didn't know there was an interview going on. Even though we were in a roped-off interview area, he was still kind of standing in there. He kept kind of stepping in on Ash, and I don't think you can see it in the video, but Ash is actually slowly doing this to him. Like, he literally had a hand on his back and was pushing him off, and in the meantime, he's standing straight up. So, like, kudos to the Ubisoft team for that one. But so anyway, Bethesda's booth was completely the opposite of that. You'd have to check in because you needed to be there ahead of time, and you had an appointment and everything like that. They actually gave you an appointment card so that you couldn't come back to your specified time. When you went back, you were given access to play Elder Scrolls Online, which I had some time with, and I got to speak with one of the developers. Actually, I got to speak with a couple of developers there. One of whom worked on Dark Age of Camelot, which is one of my absolute favorite MMOs, and he said that there's a bunch of people on the team that used to work on DIOC, which was new, music to my ears. And I also got to play I got some hands-on time with Wolfenstein as well, and that was pretty fun, and it was a ton harder. But Evil Within you had to go into their theater area. You go in, you sit down, and unfortunately I can't give you anything. I couldn't record any video while I was there because they did a no cameras, no recorders, no pictures, rule ahead of time, and I got to stick by that. But luckily they did give me some B-roll that I can put over top of what I'm talking about, and some of it does sync up one-to-one with what I'm talking about, which will be great. But Shinji Mikami comes out, and he gives his presentation. It was pretty great to actually see him and hear him talking about his vision, and basically he really wants to bring survival horror back to its roots. Now, its roots, I don't know specifically where he sees its roots. Perhaps he sees its roots as Resident Evil. Perhaps he sees its roots as Silent Hill, or perhaps both. Maybe he even thinks that there is a new inspirational root with even the Amnesia/Penumbra series, because there was some heavy influence from those games as well in The Evil Within. First things first, The Evil Within is set in it's shot in a third-person point of view, and it's pretty reminiscent of Resident Evil 4, because of that over-the-shoulder kind of look. It stars an investigative, and I don't know, an investigative reporter, but like a detective. And what happens is he's called onto the scene to this mental hospital. I guess I'm talking officially now about what the trailer really was. He's called onto the scene to this mental hospital where a full squad of police officers had been called to, and they've all been, MIA. So you arrive, you go into the mental hospital, and it's a very slow-paced kind of walking. Now, this could have been based on the person actually controlling the character. Hopefully, you're not able to just like sprint up to the main door. And I noticed that the game had very little or no music. Now, there is some music that they gave, on the footage that Bethesda gave me, but I have to admit, the no music really made it a lot more immersive than almost 90% of the other shows that were at E3, because then I was paying attention to the other sound design involved in the game, like the sound of, the bad guys, like, chopping up meat, and the sound of chainsaws and torture devices all just sound really scary. So anyway, you walk into this mental hospital, you find the lobby absolutely crowded with dead people, and there's pools of blood everywhere. So there's nurses in their typical nurse outfits and their hats, dead, and there are patients in their typical white gowns, and they're dead. And, one of your fellow detectives or somebody from your little squad says that he finds a survivor. Now, you go and you speak to the survivor, and he kind of goes off on this gibberish, and then you hear some gunfire, and you run over to the surveillance booth, and you see that there are 3 surviving police officers, and they're firing at an invisible entity, and then one by one they slowly get killed off. The camera pans in a little bit closer, and you can see that the ghost or the invisible entity is actually this hooded character with like a big scar across his face, but he is invisible. And as you notice him and see him, he looks up at the camera and teleports behind you and then like stabs you in the face or something. And that's when you wake up upside down, hanging from a meat locker, along with the bodies of several other humans. I'm going to pause here for a moment. I'm going to take a hit from my coffee. I got to admit, this is another one of the nice things that's really nice about being back in my office. 1, I get my own powerful PC back again, and 2, I get my own internet connection again, so I can actually send you guys some videos. But 3, I miss my coffee. I've been kind of living off of really bad Starbucks, really bad Starbucks coffee at the convention center, or even like those Frappuccino bottles that you buy. I mean, it's not the same. Anyway, so you wake up hanging upside down, and that, I don't want to call him Pyramid Head, but that really big brutish dude is there with like that, he's got like this iron mask kind of thing bolted to his head, and you hear him chopping up another human, and as he walks away, you take the opportunity to swing and free yourself by grabbing a knife out of the body of another human that's hanging upside down. Free yourself, and that's when the stealth segment of the game begins. Through that segment, you have to, while the brute is distracted, you got to find some keys to escape the area that you're in. And when the brute realizes that you're gone, he whips out this rusty chainsaw, which just sounded absolutely fantastic. And he starts chasing you around. From there, you can hide, or I should say, you have to hide from him. And you can do other tactics to distract him, like throw bottles to make him go and search the sound. But in the meantime, while he is chasing you, he just absolutely destroys the environment with that chainsaw. Like, nothing is sacred. He tears through desks and tables and boxes, and they're just, flying up everywhere. And there is a point, and this is where, it becomes very amnesia-like. There's really nowhere left for you to, to go, because the door is locked and you don't have the key to get out the door. So the character finds a locker, and he hides in the locker. And as he's doing that, the beast kind of just trashes the room around you, and he's, searching for you. When he can't find you, he finally goes away. And, I mean, that was so smacking of amnesia. It was fantastic. I hope that they stick with that kind of mentality throughout the entire game. I'll continue. Once you get out of the locker, you escape, and the mansion does this reality shift kind of thing, which seemed a little, while watching it, it seemed a little jarring. It felt a little bit, I don't want to call it pointless, but it just kind of came out of nowhere. And I think that in the final build of the game that it'll be explained a little bit further and a lot better. But it does this reality shift very similar to Silent Hill. Now, when you do that, he the chainsaw dude like runs out from behind you and he clips you in the back of the leg with his chainsaw, and then as you continue to run away from him, because he's just kind of like cat and mousing you, as you run away from him, he slams this door behind you, like this chain-link fence door behind you, and these big grinding gears are just coming out of the wall, and they're rusty, and they're bloody, and there's bones and body parts sticking out of them, and they slowly kind of come together, and as you run down through the room, you escape, and eventually the main character busts out of the mental hospital, or he finds the main entrance to the mental hospital, and he busts out to find that the mental hospital itself is, it is the only thing standing left in the entire distance that you can see. The whole rest of the city is destroyed. It's all rubble. The mansion itself is raised up, and in that case, it seems very Silent Hill-y. The demo continued on. I mean, if that wasn't enough, that could have been totally enough to probably have everybody totally jazzed about it. The demo continues on to show a little bit more about the game, to show some of the dynamic lighting that they have, to show some of the weapons that are actually found in it, and then to also show off one of the other monsters in the game. It starts off, the second half of the demo starts off with some zombies kind of bothering you. And you have a pistol, and it's a very slow reloading, weapon. It only holds 6 rounds. And they were showing that headshots because, he was shooting the zombie-like creatures in the face, and headshots didn't do. It didn't feel like they did more damage than any other type of, shot to the body. I don't want to say that's a good idea, and I don't want to say that's a bad idea. I'm just saying that that's what it appeared to be. They didn't do that typical thing like what happens in Resident Evil 4 and 5 and all that kind of stuff when you would do a headshot where they would kind of reel back and you could go in and Falcon punch them. None of that kind of thing was popping up. I also want to mention that there is no HUD at all in the game. There is no health bar, or I think that a health bar appears as a very thin line across the bottom of the screen if you have lost health, and it's a very, very thin red line. It's very non-intrusive. But otherwise, there's no ammo count on the screen. There's nothing. It was nice. It reminded me a lot of Dead Space, to be honest with you. So where was I going with this? Oh yeah, so these zombie guys, I mean, they've got like lawnmower blades or something stuck in their head, and they've got like giant bars already rammed through their body, so they look like they've already been tortured. So they look more like traditional monsters and less like zombies, and that was kind of nice. So he took a couple of them out with his pistol, and he was running low on ammunition, so he had to escape further into the bowels of the mansion. And as he was doing that, he was holding a lantern. I mean, a lantern. Hello, there's more amnesia / penumbra, reference. And what was really neat was, as he was switching from lantern to pistol, he would take the lantern and tuck it on his belt behind him and hold his pistol forward. And what was really cool about that was, because of the really great dynamic lighting system they have, with the lantern hanging from his belt behind him, you can't see that well forward because your body is blocking the light pushing forward. So that was really cool. But once again, when you pull the lantern out, you can see again. And it was great to note that the lantern was actually, in that moment, the only light that you had. Kind of like in Resident Evil 5 when you're wandering through the tunnels. And to me, that was the best part of Resident Evil 5. But not of course, this was not nearly as kitschy. There was a part in the demo where he's in a room and these zombies and monsters are coming towards him, and he needs to defend his position. And in doing so, he had a couple of improvised explosive devices, and he mounted them below the windows as these zombie monster people creatures were crawling through. They would explode. I'm hoping that the game doesn't lean too heavily on the explosive and the high weapon, kind of shoot everything, blow everything up kind of mentality. I hope they dial that down a little bit. I'm not saying that it was high. I was just a little bit disappointed that was kind of part of the presentation. I suppose that they're just saying like, hey, this is going to be here. So anyway, as he's escaping, he opens up another door, and inside is that gigantic Samara-like creature that you saw in the trailers, with the woman with the long dark hair coming over her face, and she has multiple gigantic arms. And as he opens up the door, she kind of like freaks out on you, kind of like the witch from Left 4 Dead. And as he's running away, he turns around to pop a couple of shots at her, and then she just like one-shots him, which is great. I want one-shot deaths. So my thought is that it's going to be very similar to a mix of Resident Evil 4, but a lot darker than Resident Evil 4. So kind of like if the first fifth of Resident Evil 4 continued throughout the entire game. I'm hoping that that's what this is. It's going to be a very, very dark experience. And what I think is going to happen is, I believe, this is my prediction now, I believe that what they'll do is they'll have segments of the mansion cordoned off where you need to evade the giant boss monster that will probably be wandering around it. So I think the boss monster will always be there, but you won't always be able to defeat the giant boss monster. So you need to do things like evade them and hide from them and, you know, do distraction tactics and that kind of thing, which is great. You know, in that regard, it almost reminds me of Clock Tower. So, you know, again, there's another classic survival horror game. In fact, that might even be one of the definitive survival horror games out there because you don't really have any, you know, attack methods. So, Evil Within looks and sounds really great, but at the same time, it's still very much in the early build, and you know, a lot of what I've said might not appear in the final version. They might actually change things up to kind of keep gamers on their toes. I hope they do. But it looks good. It looks really, really good, and I'm not going to say that it was my game of the show, but it is high up there. I would definitely rank that as one of the top 3 games that I saw there. It got me really excited. Bethesda's producing it, so there is a 99.99999% chance it's going to end up on PC. PC needs more survival horror games. I mean, we have Amnesia, but you know, it'd be great to get the other series back on PC as well. Silent Hill and Resident Evil are always on there too, but they always seem to be poor ports. This looks like it's going to be a direct shot. I'm really excited about it. I hope you guys are too. And crap, I've already been talking for 20 minutes here. So I'm going to cut this out here, and because I got a bunch of these I need to do today. I've got interviews that I need to edit together and post online. I've got other games that I want to talk about, but this one I needed to kind of describe to you because it was cool. It was cool. All right, thanks guys. Thanks for listening. Sorry if I yammered on a little bit. Talk to y'all soon.